A campus from the best city in Indonesia, a city with a long history of struggle and heroism. Welcome to Universitas Negeri Surabaya, a university with superior accreditation. Founded in 1964 as a teaching institute for education under the name Iccsal Surabaya, campus from the basic educational institution that carries the main long history of struggle that produces educators. Welcome to Universitas Negeri Surabaya, established as a center of education development, superior accreditation, preservation of traditional arts, 1964 as a teaching institute for education under the name inclusive services for people from the basic educational institution that carries the 7 faculties consisting of 64 undergraduate study programs, 10 vocational programs, and 31 postgraduate study programs. The main campus is located in Lidawetan, Surabaya with 7 main buildings. They are Rectorate Building, Board of Learning Development and Quality Assurance Building, and 3 faculty buildings including Faculty of Science Education, Faculty of Language and Art, Faculty of Sports Science, as well as postgraduate programs. And here is the oldest campus, Ketintang area. There are 4 faculty buildings and 1 vocational program building that includes Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Economics and Business, Faculty of Social Sciences and Law, and vocational programs. Managing 2 fields of study, education-based and non-educational study programs, UNESA is committed to improving the quality of education, fostering scientific traditions in research, promoting the spirit of community service, collaborating with stakeholders, and performing excellent, transparent, and accountable services. reaching independent autonomic higher studies, welcoming the next step of UNESA as a legal entity higher education institution.
Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Kami dengan bangganya mengajak Anda untuk lebih dekat dan mengenal tentang UNESA. Kami terus berkomitmen tidak hanya menyelenggarakan pendidikan terbaik bagi tenaga pendidik profesional masa depan, juga sangat berfokus untuk menciptakan lulusan yang berkarakter, tangguh, kreatif, inovatif, dan mampu berkolaborasi pada siapapun, berbudaya yang humanis dengan spesifikasi yang unggul dalam hal seni, olahraga, dan pendidikan disabilitas yang komprehensif.
Education is not only the key of our existence, but also the spirit of struggle of UNESA. Becoming one of the campuses that organize teacher professional education programs that produce professional educators, UNESA is committed to organizing various empowerment programs as a stimulus to develop faculty members and students, research development, and innovative product as the solution to problems in the society. UNESA, House of the Champions. A supportive ecosystem in producing competitive and well-qualified human resources with global perspective to compete on both national and international levels. In order to create a healthy learning ecosystem, UNESA continue to provide the best service with various quality facilities, national or international scale, in the field of education, science, and sports. UNESA continuously commit to provide an outstanding service and friendly for people with disabilities. Supported with adequate facilities and infrastructure, a competitive environment, and a continuously moving to create a conservation campus. Futsal International Sports Arena, Container Students Dormitory, Sports Center, Language Center, Geraha UNESA, Student Activity Center, Jogging Track, Equestrian Field, International Basketball Arena, Student Activity Units, Art Development, Character and Personality Building, Sports, Outdoor Activities.
UNESA, 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 UNESA,
UNESA.
UNESA, satu langkah di depan.
A campus from the best city in Indonesia, a city with a long history of struggle and heroism. Welcome to Universitas Negeri Surabaya, a university with superior accreditation. Founded in 1964 as a teaching institute for education under the name Iccsal Surabaya, to be an educational institution that carries the mandate as university that produces educators. Currently, UNESA, established as a center for education development, preservation of traditional arts, sports science, and inclusive services for people with disabilities. Growing to be a leading university, UNESA now manages 7 faculties consisting of 64 undergraduate study programs, 10 vocational programs, and 31 postgraduate study programs. The main campus is located in Lidawetan, Surabaya, with 7 main buildings. They are Rectorate Building, Board of Learning Development and Quality Assurance Building, and 3 faculty buildings including Faculty of Science Education, Faculty of Language and Art, Faculty of Sports Science, as well as postgraduate programs. And here is the oldest campus, Ketintang area. There are 4 faculty buildings and 1 vocational program building that includes Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Economics and Business, Faculty of Social Sciences and Law, and vocational programs. Managing the fields of study, education-based and non-educational study programs, UNESA is committed to improving the quality of education, fostering scientific traditions in research, promoting the spirit of community service, collaborating with stakeholders, and performing excellent, transparent, and accountable services. Reaching independent autonomic higher studies, welcoming the next step of UNESA as a legal entity higher education institution.
Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Kami dengan bangganya mengajak Anda untuk lebih dekat dan mengenal tentang UNESA. Kami terus berkomitmen tidak hanya menyelenggarakan pendidikan terbaik bagi tenaga pendidik profesional masa depan, juga sangat berfokus untuk menciptakan lulusan yang berkarakter, tangguh, kreatif, inovatif, dan mampu berkolaborasi pada siapapun, berbudaya yang humanis dengan spesifikasi yang unggul dalam hal seni, olahraga, dan pendidikan disabilitas yang komprehensif.
Education is not only the key of our existence, but also the spirit of struggle of UNESA. Becoming one of the campuses that organize teacher professional education programs that produce professional educators, UNESA is committed to organizing various empowerment programs as a stimulus to develop faculty members and students, research development, an innovative product as the solution to problems in the society. UNESA, House of the Champions. A supportive ecosystem in producing competitive and well-qualified human resources with global perspective to compete on both national and international levels. In order to create a healthy learning ecosystem, UNESA continue to provide the best service with various quality facilities, national or international scale, in the field of education, science, and sports. UNESA continuously commit to provide an outstanding service and friendly for people with disabilities. Supported with adequate facilities and infrastructure, a competitive environment, and a continuously moving to create a conservation campus. Futsal International Sports Arena, Container Students Dormitory, Sports Center, Language Center, Geraha UNESA, Student Activity Center, Jogging Track, Equestrian Field, International Basketball Arena, Student Activity Units, Art Development, Character and Personality Building, Sports, Outdoor Activities,
UNESA, 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 UNESA,
UNESA, satu langkah di depan.
a campus from the best city in Indonesia, a city with a long history of struggle and heroism. Welcome to Universitas Negeri Surabaya, a university with superior accreditation. Founded in 1964 as a teaching institute for education under the name Iccsal Surabaya, to be an educational institution that carries the mandate as university that produces educators. Currently, UNESA established as a center for education development, preservation of traditional arts, sports science, and inclusive services for people with disabilities. Growing to be a leading university, UNESA now manages 7 faculties consisting of 64 undergraduate study programs, 10 vocational programs, and 31 postgraduate study programs. The main campus is located in Lidawetan, Surabaya with 7 main buildings. They are Rectorate Building, Board of Learning Development and Quality Assurance Building, and 3 faculty buildings including Faculty of Science Education, Faculty of Language and Art, Faculty of Sports Science. As well as postgraduate programs. And here is the oldest campus, Ketintang area. There are 4 faculty buildings and 1 vocational program building that includes Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Economics and Business, Faculty of Social Sciences and Law, and vocational programs. Managing the fields of study, education-based and non-educational study programs, UNESA is committed to improving the quality of education, fostering scientific traditions in research, promoting the spirit of community service, collaborating with stakeholders, and performing excellent, transparent, and accountable services. Reaching independent autonomic higher studies, welcoming the next step of UNESA as a legal entity higher education institution.
Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Kami dengan bangganya mengajak Anda untuk lebih dekat dan mengenal tentang UNESA. Kami terus berkomitmen tidak hanya menyelenggarakan pendidikan terbaik bagi tenaga pendidik profesional masa depan, juga sangat berfokus untuk menciptakan lulusan yang berkarakter, tangguh, kreatif, inovatif, dan mampu berkolaborasi pada siapapun, berbudaya yang humanis dengan spesifikasi yang unggul dalam hal seni, olahraga, dan pendidikan disabilitas yang komprehensif.
Education is not only the key of our existence, but also the spirit of struggle of UNESA. Becoming one of the campuses that organize teacher professional education programs that produce professional educators, UNESA is committed to organizing various empowerment programs as a stimulus to develop faculty members and students, research development, and innovative product as a solution to problems in the society. UNESA, House of the Champions. A supportive ecosystem in producing competitive and well-qualified human resources with global perspective to compete on both national and international levels. In order to create a healthy learning ecosystem, UNESA continue to provide the best service with various quality facilities, national or international scale, in the field of education, science, and sports. UNESA continuously commit to provide an outstanding service and friendly for people with disabilities. Supported with adequate facilities and infrastructure, a competitive environment, and a continuously moving to create a conservation campus. Futsal International Sports Arena, Container Students Dormitory, Sports Center, Language Center, Geraha UNESA, Student Activity Center, Jogging track, Equestrian field, International Basketball Arena. Student Activity Units. Art Development. Character and Personality Building. Sports. Outdoor activities.
Unesa, 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 Unesa,
UNESA, satu langkah di depan.
A campus from the best city in Indonesia, a city with a long history of struggle and heroism. Welcome to Universitas Negeri Surabaya, a university with superior accreditation. Founded in 1964 as a teaching institute for education under the name Iccsal Surabaya, to be an educational institution that carries the mandate as university.
Good morning from Surabaya, Indonesia. A warm welcome to everyone. We would like to start the agenda in a minute. Please remain online and kindly switch your microphone to silent mode. For a better virtual experience, you can also switch to speaker view instead of gallery view on your Zoom. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Professor Dr. Nur Hassan, the Rector of Universitas Negeri Surabaya, Vice Rectors of Universitas Negeri Surabaya, Dr. Trisakti, Dean of Faculty of Languages and Arts UNESA, Vice Deans of Faculty of Languages and Arts UNESA, Dr. Didi Nur Hadi, the Chairperson of the Third International Conference on Cultural Studies and Applied Linguistics 2022. The honorable keynote speakers, Professor Dr. Kim So-il, the Chair Professor at Daejeon University, South Korea, Professor Dr. Yahya Bindon, the Dean of School of Education and Modern Languages at University Utara Malaysia, Malaysia, Dr. Anis Sundusyah Nahrawi from University of Pittsburgh, United States of America, Dr. Julie Jati Prambudi, from Universitas Negeri Surabaya, Indonesia, international participants, speakers, distinguished guests. Welcome to the opening ceremony of the Third International Conference on Cultural Studies and Applied Linguistics 2022. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Cecilia Putri, and I will be the Master of Ceremony for today's session. I hope everyone is keeping safe during these unpredictable times, and it is such a pleasure for us to meet you in this event, virtually, of course. We appreciate your enthusiasm in participating in the Third International Conference on Cultural Studies and Applied Linguistics with the theme of critical issues in languages, arts, cultures, and social sciences, direction, policy, and practice in the post-pandemic era. According to our record, we have around 75 participants and articles coming from across the globe, joining us in the parallel session presentations. We hope that these sessions will provide you with great insights on the comprehensive topics. Before going into our main sessions, please allow me to read out our agendas for the day. The first one, listening to Indonesian National Anthem and UNESA's theme song, and then an opening speech from our rector, Professor Dr. Nur Hassan, A welcome remark from the chairperson of the third Iccsal photo session, and directly we will move on to the keynote speaker presentations. To ensure a smooth transition of our event today, I would like to kindly inform all participants the rules for the plenary sessions. The first one is each participant must identify herself or himself by writing the number of the breakout room session _name. Each participant is requested to be in silent mode during the whole conference, except in question and answer session, which will be unmuted by the host or the moderator. Participants are encouraged to raise questions both orally in Zoom platform and written in Zoom chat and YouTube live comments. Written questions should abide the following format: #as_keynote speaker names or the presenter and the question. Live oral question is preceded by clicking the raise hand button and will be called upon by the moderator. Up next, we shall listen to Indonesian National Anthem and UNESA's theme song. Operator. Thank you. We will now proceed with the opening speech by the Rector of UNESA, which will be represented by the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs. May I please invite Professor Dr. Bambang Yulianto to deliver his opening remarks. Professor Bambang, time is yours.
I'm Professor Bambang Yulianto, Vice Rector for Academic Affairs. International Chain Conference is our commitment to encourage academicians and faculty members to enhance innovation and collaboration through research. The International Chain Conference provides a space for scholars, researchers, and practitioners to share and exchange their novel insights and inspire new direction of research and application relevant with the post-pandemic situation, and also at an expanding network among scholars and strengthening institutional academic collaboration. It is in line with university's strategic plan that by 2025, we hope to be a recognized teaching university in the region. Welcome to State University of Surabaya, Universitas Negeri Surabaya, UNESA. We are committed to enhancing our academic contribution and collaboration to build sustainable development for our community and humanity. Thank you.
This International Conference on Education and Innovation is a conference held annually by the Faculty of Education of UNESA, Universitas Negeri Surabaya. This is to facilitate academics from all over Indonesia and discuss critical ideas related to the development of education both in Asia and the world. Underlying phenomena, events, data this year's Iccsal theme is inspiring global collaboration for future innovation and resilience in facing education challenge during the pandemic. And the second reason for choosing this theme is because we are aware that globalization is a major issue in this era. Moreover, the world is being hit by the pandemic that causes significant change to occur in all aspects of life, including education.
MISEC 2022 actually is international conference. This conference is conducted regularly. It's like an annual event for the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences. For the big impact, we want to contribute in the international academic research. So this event actually, I hope, can have a significant impact to the development of research in not only in natural sciences but also in education.
This year is the third time for Universitas Negeri Surabaya to host Iccsal International Conference following its success in the previous years. Currently, I am pleased to inform you that there has been an increase in both quality and quantity of the papers that will be presented in the third Iccsal 2022. Therefore, I trust that in the future, this conference will be able to grow into one prestigious annual conference by actively collaborating with various professional associations in the field of cultural studies and applied
IEEE Indonesia section through Communication Society Indonesian section will support ICVEE. Accepted paper will be submitted for inclusion into IEEE Explore subject to meeting IEEE Explore scope and quality requirement. With this conference, communication and collaboration can be established between researchers and university in improving world-class research publications.
The name of conference is International Conference on Social Science and Law. The theme of the conference is Rethinking the Transformation of Society in Pandemic Era, Contribution of Social Science, Education, and Law. We choose the theme, the Rethinking the Transformation of a Society in Post-Pandemic Era, because we have seen that our society, not only in Indonesia, but around the world, we face the problem, namely the post-pandemic. How the society has changed after this pandemic situation.
This conference is organized by the Institute of Research and Community Services Universitas Negeri Surabaya to accommodate all researchers and academics in Universitas Negeri Surabaya. The theme of this conference was chosen because we want to strengthen innovation in research and community services in the post-pandemic area after the COVID outbreak. And we are also inviting academics, researchers, and practitioners to submit mostly case studies of practice, theoretical papers, empirical studies, and other papers that address any topic within the broad areas of social, humanities, science, and technology. And the purpose and the aim of the conference is to accommodate all researcher and community services activities in order to increase international publication in accordance with the key performance indicator Universitas Negeri Surabaya.
Thank you for the remarkable speech and a comprehensive introduction to the International Joint Conferences at UNESA 2022. Our next agenda is listening to a welcome remark by the chairperson of the third ICCSAL, Dr. Didi Nur Hadi. The time is yours.
But Cecile, check.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Speakers, guests, presenters, and participants. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the third International Conference on Cultural Studies and Applied Linguistics, ICCSAL 2022, hosted by Universitas Negeri Surabaya. In this opportunity, I would also like to thank the Rector of Universitas Negeri Surabaya, Vice Rectors, Heads of Bureaus, Deans and Vice Deans, Committee, keynote speakers, presenter and participant to their dedication and support in making this conference possible. The theme selected for this year's conference is critical issues in languages, arts, culture, and social sciences, duration, policy, and practice in post-pandemic era. Following the theme, the conference aimed to bring the scientists, education experts, and students in the scientific forum through sharing ideas and issues about theoretical and practical knowledge in applied linguistics, cultures, arts, and social sciences. Additionally, this conference is also meant to facilitate the improvement of researcher and lecture of scientific publication. I do believe that in the future, this conference will be able to grow even more into one prestigious annual conference. As a matter of fact, we are looking forward to collaborating with reputable scientific journals in the field of cultural studies and applied linguistics as platform for our publication. ICCSAL 2022 is attended by presenters from overseas, such as Malaysia, the United States of America, Korea, Japan, Thailand, and Indonesia. The number of articles registered is 75 articles. Lastly, I do hope that this conference will be a great forum to support the emergence of new researchers and academicians within the field of the study that it concerns. Happy conferencing, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nurhadi, for welcoming us to the third International Conference on Cultural Studies and Applied Linguistics, or ICCSAL. Up next, we have arrived at one of the moments that we have been waiting for, which is the photo session. To our distinguished guests and participants, please kindly turn on your cameras and join us in our photo session. To Pak Farhan, could you please help us? I believe we have 3 slides here, so let's start with the first one. First slide, please put on your nicest smiles this morning. Pak Farhan, are you ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. Next, the second slide, please hold on to your smiles because it looks very pretty. Second slide, 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you. Moving on to our last slide. Yeah. Smile, everyone. 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, thank you very much. I believe we have captured all of your beautiful and handsome faces. At last, we are now moving on to the plenary session. As arranged in the program book, we will be having 4 exceptional keynote speakers from various higher education institutions. The first one, we will have Professor Dr. Kim So-il, the chair professor at Asian University, South Korea. Annyeonghaseyo, Professor. Professor Dr. Yahya Bindon, the Dean of School of Education and Modern Languages at University Utara Malaysia, Malaysia. Dr. Anis Sundusiah Nahrawi from University of Pittsburgh, United States of America, and Dr. Julie Jati Prambudi from Universitas Negeri Surabaya, Indonesia. Before we start, I would like to introduce our moderators who will be managing the keynote sessions from now on. The first session will be moderated by Ms. Suraya M.A., and the second session will be moderated by Dr. Himawan. Before going into our keynote session, we will now watch the video profile of Universitas Negeri Surabaya.
A campus from the best city in Indonesia, a city with a long history of struggle and heroism. Welcome to Universitas Negeri Surabaya, a university with superior accreditation. Founded in 1964 as a teaching institute for education under the name Iccsal Surabaya, to be an educational institution that carries the mandate as university that produces educators. Currently, UNESA, established as a center for education development, preservation of traditional arts, sports science, and inclusive services for people with disabilities. Growing to be a leading university, UNESA now manages 7 faculties consisting of 64 undergraduate study programs, 10 vocational programs, and 31 postgraduate study programs. The main campus is located in Lidawetan, Surabaya with 7 main buildings. They are Rectorate Building, Board of Learning Development and Quality Assurance Building. And 3 faculty building including Faculty of Science Education, Faculty of Language and Art, Faculty of Sports Science, as well as postgraduate programs. And here is the oldest campus, Ketintang area. There are 4 faculty buildings and 1 vocational program building that includes Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Economics and Business, Faculty of Social Sciences and Law, and vocational programs. Managing the fields of study, education-based and non-educational study programs, UNESA is committed to improving the quality of education, fostering scientific traditions in research, promoting the spirit of community service, collaborating with stakeholders, and performing excellent, transparent, and accountable services. Reaching independent autonomic higher studies, welcoming the next step of UNESA as a legal entity higher education institution.
Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Kami dengan bangganya mengajak Anda untuk lebih dekat dan mengenal tentang UNESA. Kami terus berkomitmen tidak hanya menyelenggarakan pendidikan terbaik bagi tenaga pendidik profesional masa depan, juga sangat berfokus untuk menciptakan lulusan yang berkarakter, tangguh, kreatif, inovatif, dan mampu berkolaborasi pada siapapun, berbudaya yang humanis dengan spesifikasi yang unggul dalam hal seni, olahraga, dan pendidikan disabilitas yang komprehensif.
Education is not only the key of our existence, but also the spirit of struggle of UNESA. Becoming one of the campuses that organize teacher professional education programs that produce professional educators, UNESA is committed to organizing various empowerment programs as a stimulus to develop faculty members and students, research development, and innovative product as the solution to problems in the society. UNESA, House of the Champions. A supportive ecosystem in producing competitive and well-qualified human resources with global perspective to compete on both national and international levels. In order to create a healthy learning ecosystem, UNESA continue to provide the best service with various quality facilities, national or international scale, in the field of education, science, and sports. UNESA continuously commit to provide an outstanding service and friendly for people with disabilities. Supported with adequate facilities and infrastructure, a competitive environment, and a continuously moving to create a conservation campus. Futsal International Sports Arena, Container Students Dormitory, Sports Center, Language Center, Geraha UNESA, Student Activity Center, Jogging Track, Equestrian Field, International Basketball Arena, Student Activity Units, Art Development, Character and Personality Building, Sports, Outdoor Activities,
UNESA, 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 UNESA.
UNESA, satu langkah di depan.
Thank you for watching the video profile of UNESA. Hopefully you could get a glimpse of us or a glimpse of the atmosphere of UNESA campuses. Especially for those who have not yet been to UNESA, we welcome everyone who would like to pay us a visit, maybe next year for our 4th ICCSAL. Before moving on to the plenary session, the committee would like to extend our gratitude for supporting this event and attending the opening ceremony. We hope that you could enjoy the conference to the fullest. Now, may I please invite our moderator, Ms. Suraya MA, to join us. Ms. Suraya, are you here with us?
Yes.
Yes.
Cecilia, thank you.
Yeah, you are pleased to take over. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction, Ms. Cecilia Putri. A very warm good morning, distinguished keynote speakers and dearest participants. Welcome to the first plenary session of the 3rd International Conference on Cultural Studies and Applied Linguistics. I'm Suraya, honored to serve you as moderator for this session. There are 2 wonderful keynote speakers who join with us today. Let me say hi to Dr. Anisun Lucia. Are you here with us, Dr. Anisun Lucia?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Suraya.
Thanks for joining us with thank you for joining with us today. And I'd like to say hi to Professor Dr. Kim Song-il from Pukyong National University, South Korea. Are you here with us? Professor Kim? Okay, he'll be here shortly. He'll be with us shortly then. Okay, now let us welcome to our first keynote speaker, Dr. Anisun Lucia. Before we will watch her presentation, let me introduce her short biography briefly. She is a program coordinator at Institute for International Studies in Education, IISE, University of Pittsburgh, USA. And her main responsibility is to market IISE, including supporting content creations of IISE marketing channels, their websites, and also social media. Currently, she's hosting an IISE working group on language policies in education. She wrote her dissertation on language policy rationales, appropriation, and debates, and has earned her PhD from University of Pittsburgh. Dr. Anisun Lucia has diverse experiences in teaching, research, and leadership at the university level. Some of her research interests include language policy and planning, applied linguistics, and TESOL. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Dr. Anis Sundusia to present her research article on analyzing educational language policy using zone of mediation framework, technical, normative, and political dimensions of a school-wide EMI practice. The committee, please.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you and good morning. Again, I thank you and I thank the committee for this opportunity. I am grateful and honored to be here and to share my work and hopefully to have feedback and discussions later on. As you can see from the slide, in the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to share my previous work on analyzing educational language policy using a so-called zone of mediation framework. It also claimed as an equity-minded framework for policy analysis because it identifies and analyzes a policy beyond its programmatic technicality, because it also sees the other aspects of the policy, including politics and norms. So the past is the prologue, Shakespeare. And this study will use a policy that is already ended or terminated few years ago, almost 10 years ago, but that doesn't mean the analysis ended there. Researching past events serves as a prologue, as a preliminary background for any language events or any language policy projects that might happen in the futures or right now. So understanding the past is very critical in developing strategies that could follow, in developing comparative strategies that of what we could possibly done in the future in a way that is more cost effective and cost sensible. A brief refresher, EMI in Iccsal or bilingual policy in RSBI or RSBI. EMI, English as a medium of instructions, is an instructional mode in which English is partially or incrementally used to teach non-language courses. In our case, in Indonesia case, it's mostly math and science and other subjects too, depending on teachers' availability. To use this approach to learners who don't speak English as a native language. In Indonesia, as well as in many other countries, this language policy is coupled with international education project. In our case, it's called International Standard Schools, or I will call it Iccsal, or in Indonesian language, we call it as RSBI. Many studies, lots of studies by domestic scholars as well as international scholars has touched on the technical dimensions or the structural aspects of the EMI practice in schools. Some also touched on the sort of the norms or the politics of it, but sometimes the recommendations or the explorations a little bit shy away from politics or from cultural struggles, from unequal access, or even the solutions doesn't touch on that. Few, yes, sort of juxtapose the roles and status of English in globalized economies, tying it with the linguistic ecology of Indonesia. But again, it's only less and mostly on structural aspects of it, which is also important, but hence the needs of these studies. So in these studies or in these presentations, I will share some parts of the studies that explore the school-wide EMI policy appropriations. This is a fancy word for implementations, by looking at how technical, normative, and political aspects of the policy had contributed to either stability or resistance within the school as recalled by the teachers. So this is a case study of one school. In order to understand the policy as a whole in Indonesia, the policymakers sort of frame the rationales and the goals of EMI in Indonesia broadly in three themes: economy, competitiveness, and identity. I will go very briefly on this page, and I'm happy to go over on this if you have any questions later on. So economic productivity, the policymaker sees that this policy is basically a deliberately acquired language skills, or see this policy as a deliberately acquired language skills as an asset that is embodied in the ability to perform labor, to give access to political identities and opportunities, and ultimately turned this capital into a source of economic advantage. This mirrors human capital and linguistic capital theories. Literacy for global competitiveness. Literacy is not just reading and writing, but also ability to use those languages to be able to function, to perform in a social and economic activities using the language or through the language in development sectors, not just local, national, but also regional and global. So competitiveness, when it comes to literacy, competitiveness is also economy, not just about reading and writing. Regional political identity, the choice of English had a lot of things to do with masyarakat ekonomi ASEAN, economic community of ASEAN, as one social political entity and having one common language for development and for diplomacy purposes. So this work is rooted within an interdisciplinary concepts of educational language policy and politics of education, or zone of mediation itself. There are several conceptualizations of what constitute educational language policy or language policy and planning itself. I'm happy to elaborate several examples of it, but in this research or in the study, I focus on what David Johnson's put on, that educational language policy refers to both official and unofficial policies and practices that are created across multiple layers and institutional contexts, not just classrooms, but also society and agencies outside schools and national and supranational organizations that impact language use in classrooms and schools, and vice versa. What happened in classroom and schools might affect on what happened in the society and other levels of community. So several key characteristics of educational language policy: that it is a multi-layered process, multi-tier, multi-layered process, agencies in each and every policy actors. There's a reciprocity about social, cultural, and political also, not just programmatic level in classroom. The implementation and ideological spaces, and the approach is pretty much comprehensive linguistic ecology, not just about the teaching, but also how that affects outside the school classrooms. And lots of works in language policies have developed beyond classroom. For the analytical framework, I'm using the term called zone of mediations, developed by Oakes. So this is originated from the politics of education field. So Oakes and Wellner, especially, two scholars promote the zone of mediation concept. And within this framework, schools are seen as a formally and hierarchical organized interactional setting that has power relationships, roles, association, positions, functions among internal and external members of the school, where those interactions represent a larger forces. And within this framework, schools are considered as a mediating institutions, that they mediate larger forces, social, economic, political, cultural forces into the school site that affect the individual members inside the school. And there's also an interactions of this individual members within the schools and outside the schools that affects on how individuals and groups respond and react to the policies. So it's not just something from the top government, for example, affect what happened in schools, but the school itself also has roles, agencies in reacting and responding and in reshaping the policies, as well as the natures of the policies and the nuance of the policies. So I'm going to use this zone of mediations as an analytical framework on the findings later. Brief explanations on the method. I only have one slide for the method, but I'm happy to go over on this if you have specific questions on how I did the data and everything. So this is a qualitative study in natures, and I'm using a typical case sampling to sample one school in Central Java, Olympus High School. And this school applied or experimented EMI policy in 2006 until 2013. I'm employing interpretive policy analysis that analyze differing opinions, values as an alternative ways of viewing and understanding what's going on with the policies based on the actors' experiences, their roles, their positionalities, and their backgrounds. I did interviews, school visits, documentations, government policy documents, school archives, relevant policy-related artifacts, events, and objects. The analysis is pretty much, again, qualitative, lots of interpretations, hermeneutic levels, hermeneutic approach, inductive coding, and I use MaxQDA software to help me with the coding and subcoding and categorizing findings. For the analysis, I categorize the findings in 3 dimensions: technical, normative, and political dimensions. This is also based on Oakes and Wellner's zone of mediations framework to analyze the natures and the outcomes of the policy implementations or policy appropriations. Implementations, this is how the policy being translated into task, norms, roles, and strategies. The outcome is not necessarily about the student's outcome or teacher's outcome, but how the policies or how people responded and reacted to the policy. This could be from like blind or total acceptance to smooth transactions or to extreme rejections of the policy. It could be anything in between. Technical dimensions refers to schools' internal functions, the structures, the arrangement, the capacity development. Normative dimensions refers to the school's deep cultures, what they believe, what they value, the norms and the mindsets of the groups and individuals within the school. Political is refers to power relations among constituents within schools and outside the schools. So I'm categorizing or I'm using these 3 dimensions to categorize the findings and analyze them. So here we go on the findings. The EMI policy appropriations and in Olympus schools. Notice that I use appropriations and implementations interchangeably because those 2 are the same but different. Appropriations meaning how schools translate, adjust, modify, works in many ways to translate the policies, to break down the policies into tasks, strategies, and roles. By appropriations, they can appropriate, they can make adjustment depending on the school's capacities. That's why I like to use the word appropriation instead of implementations, because implementation is usually like general guidelines of policies being implemented, but appropriation is more localized, institutionalized, how school or institutions make sense and then strategize the policies. EMI policy dimensions in Olympus schools in terms of 3 dimensions: normative, technical, and political. So this triangle or this chart sort of like magnifies these interacting forces, technical, normatives, and politicals within the school that shape the stability of the policies, appropriations, and the outcomes. Each of these dimensions resembles a lens that magnifies one dimension of a particular policy practice while also temporarily filtering out the others. Let's look at each of the dimensions and its appropriations on the next slide. The technical dimensions, the structures, the strategies, and the knowledge. The research questions that guides this finding. How did the schools appropriate their EMI policy structures, tasks, and strategies? Again, the dimensions, the technical dimensions refers to the technicality of a policy as described in terms of structures, how they arrange their manpower, the people, how they arrange the materials, the space, and the time, also scheduling, assessment, and everything. In terms of strategies, both pedagogy and management. In terms of knowledge, this also refers to the teachers' trainings, the school's capacity buildings, how they upgrade themselves, according to the internationalizations, as well as the language policy itself. All of these efforts are central to the schools to achieve the policy goals. The findings based on my data, I subgroup them into different themes, again, based on the structure, strategies, and knowledge or the teacher's training. Teachers' voluntary assignments, exposure to academic English, language use by percentage in terms of materials and textbook, assessment principles, and capacity building. I can specify this later on if you have any questions or the examples of this technical findings. Again, if we look at the triangle chart on the technical dimensions, here are some, or not some, here are, like the several aspects that falls under the technical dimensions, that how teachers voluntarily assign themselves to do EMI, how much language use, how much language exposures, what is the principal assessment in terms of language and comprehensions, for example, because they have to use English to teach math and science, how they structure their materials, how they reach out lots of resources to help teachers develop their lessons, and how schools also manage to have lots of trainings and capacity building programs for their teachers as well as for the school's leaders. So these are all the technical dimensions. Technical fixes at these schools might seem affordable and feasible, and this is what happened with lots of technical dimensions. It is more affordable, it is more manageable, it is more structures also, like factory based, and usually it has a like a benchmark, like achievement benchmark. And however, this type of technical fixes often led to another layer of issues. For example, when it comes to the teachers training, for example, they send teachers to do English language training. While this might fix 1 or 2 issues, but there's another challenges that came out, such as motivations or burned out factors or age or seniority. All of these issues, adds up and then make the teacher training itself less effective because of those motivations or age or seniority aspects. Another example is where the teacher's voluntary assignment of applying EMI. Having several teachers doing EMI is actually helps schools' reputations as the first IS school cohort, for example, but the privilege earned by EMI teachers had created a group of sort of institutional elites that define that they were sort of rank or defined based on their English language capacity. So there's a hierarchy created because of the segmented assignments of having EMI experimentations in this school. Might be different in other school. So let's go on to the second dimension. Just a second, let me see my time. I still have 4 or 5 minutes. The normative dimensions, what were some norms that were embedded in the policy appropriations? The normative dimensions refer to a deep understanding of cultural capital. This can be the values, the norms, and the beliefs that embraced by the school members and how this affect the policy opinions and policy practices. In terms of finding, at least there are 3 themes that stood out: the mobility, social schools meritocracy, and local virtues. Mobility, teachers believe that the promotions of EMI is necessary to improve students' language capacity, and then to improve because the language capacity would improve students' economic competitiveness for socioeconomic mobility, for students to go ahead, basically, right? Another belief is schools meritocracy, being nominated as international schools. The Olympus school member feels that, believe that this means their schools had an excellence or an example of excellence as internationally certified schools, being a model school for their accountability and having an expanded national global networks. Remember, there are a lot of partners, sister schools abroad and visitings and everything. So schools meritocracy, their prestige, their pride. Local virtues, there's a lot of beliefs among teachers, at least ones that I interviewed, about a cultural view that they just want to focus on the benefits of these challenges or any hardship instead of what would be or what could be the problems or the inherent problems of this policy. So it's silver lining seeker, or every cloud has a silver lining, something like that. So like or in Indonesia probably like berakit-rakit dahulu, bersenang-senang kemudian, or something like semua ada hikmahnya. So they will just deal with all the problems and like focus on what are the benefits of this for the students and for the schools also. So schools' prestige and pride, students' mobility, all of this perceived future benefits are the norms that drove and sustain their decisions, their practices, their daily practices, and kept the schools members to voluntarily participating in the policy regardless of challenges, whether it is language or logistic challenges. I like these pictures because it really represents, the pride of the school's member. The next dimensions is the political. What were some political forces that affected the policy nuance within Olympus schools? Political dimensions could be from any conflictive politics and group level behaviors, decision-making process, consensus, formal, informal actions or opinions by individuals or by groups that too overtly or covertly achieve their goals, which is in this case the language policy itself. Institutional elites, teachers and staffs involved in the school's internationalization teams, they have lots of assignments One of them is also to get a buy-in or to get an agreement from the school members, from the parents, from the community, from their donors also, to embrace the norms of being international schools and what language policy is in these international schools. So to get a buy-in, to get a waiver from internal and external members of the schools. The transformations of the schools itself, of Olympus schools, also implied a creation of a new elite school that also implied the school to be an elite school compared to the other public or private schools in the schooling marketplace. So there is a new rising stars, and not IS schools are actually elite previously. Some of them are like mediocre school, but then they got lots of supports, grants, and then all this policy that sort of helped them raised up or raising up. The symbolic capital gap, Olympus utilized their resources and assets to acquire this prestige or the symbolic cultural capital. So this create disparities, and this was or could have been widened across public schools in terms of revenues, capacities, and academic performance, and not to mention the grants also from the government. One might ask, how could the new norms or the new changes on being international schools and the language policies limit or curtail the chaos, the calamity, or the challenges of the policy, logistic, and resources? One of the answers was that a smooth policy transitions and appropriations would necessitate redistributions of valued resources, materials, whether it is tangibles or intangibles, meaning that if there is power, if there is a resource distributions, that usually smoothen up the process. So how was the interactions of the three dimensions leading to language policy maintenance in this Olympus school? At Olympus, the normative and political dimensions, the norms, the beliefs, the politicals, the buy-in, as well as the incentives, help the school ease the transition, ease the resistance as well. The school was able to negotiate the policy deliverabilities that were manageable for teachers while still complying the rationale of the policy. Critics were there, frictions, challenges, and everything. But again, these were considered as a part of the dynamics and did not disrupt the policy continuance in Olympus schools. In all, policy transition in Olympus schools was relatively subtle, falls into the non-conflict equilibrium without major confrontations at all. Even if the policy was not terminated, the school will continue advancing their practices or their experiments with the policy. Meanwhile, outside the school, as most of us might know, the policy debate at the macro national level were loaded with normative issues such as linguistic exclusivism, social divisiveness or social gap, and nationalism issues. So this study demonstrates that this finding, especially when it comes to teachers' engagement and everything, speak to those who criticize and undermine teachers and school leaders' capacities in managing, in appropriating the AMI policies. It might be chaos from outside, but inside, they're able to manage it. They thrive with it. Teachers' experiences and teachers' norms, beliefs show that the school had a capacity to successfully appropriate the policy demands into deliverable tasks despite the problems and challenges. Teachers' responses and engagements affect the policy natures and outcomes, and that modify policy's course into stability or conflict or anything in between, depends on what school or which schools we investigate. Each school is a unique zone of mediations, Hence, its policy appropriation and outcomes might be different across times, across settings, right? And for a successful, smooth policy change, technical aspect is important, but must be accompanied or preceded with normative and political cultivations. Changing or altering learning patterns, learning structures is easy, right? Or it's not easy, but shifting norms and political power distributions within a schools, that's also not easy. However, as difficult as this, if we neglect the norms and the political, that would cost the policy even more than just monetary. This is the last pictures or the last slides, and I like how these pictures give us or give me a reminder that languages taught and learned at schools in or for education is never neutral. Languages in school are never neutral. They both ideological and political, always at the same time. Language policy is highly ideological and political because it's not just about teaching method. It's not about resources. It's not just about teaching resources. It's not just about curriculum changes. And it's not just about language corpus or language text, but there are decisions, there are debates, there are plannings on language status and language acquisitions. Language acquisitions as in what languages we want our generations to speak. And this is very highly ideological and could be costly and could be bloody also. So the pictures is the Ukrainian parliament in 2012. They have a debate on law and language, whether they have Russians or English as a second official language in some parts of Ukraine. This is way back then, 10 years ago. And then, yes, we can see the war and everything, 2 years ago. And they were fighting, they were like, having physical fight when they are debating and when they are working on the language law. So that's how much political and contentious and ideological a language is. Thank you so much. I hope this presentation is informative and helpful, and I'm looking forward to any feedback as well as questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anis. What an interesting presentation. It reminds me of, these days universities, it's not these days, but it's already like probably 10 years back then. We have BINUS International University. Now we have BINUS International University. If you also reckon that IPB, or what we call as Bogor Agriculture Institute, now it becomes like IPB University. And we have Monash University in Jakarta. I believe that this is way back then in the EMI based school, like the one you have presented. So participants, you have watched the presentation from Dr. Andi Sundusia, and she highlighted three main findings regarding EMI policy appropriation at Olympus School. The first one is the normative aspect. It entails competitiveness, mobility, and school prestige, as well as local cultural virtues. And the second is technical aspect, and those aspects deal with materials and resources, capacity building, language exposure, assessment, as well as language usage. And the last is political. That one is really intriguing. It covers new school and institutional elites, as well as a symbol of capital gap. And I think I really love the last part of her presentation, which says that a language in or for education is both ideological and political. So up next, we have our Q&A session. For the first time, I would like to invite three questioners. So whenever you want to raise your questions live, please click the button raise hand, and I will call your name, and the operator will unmute your Zoom, and you may raise your question, or you can also type your question in the chat box over there, and you have the format over there. Okay, so we have the first question, Mr. Bambang Sukito. Okay, the operator, please.
Okay, thank you. I can hear my voice.
Your part, it's clear.
Okay. How to support in improving English in your campus environment? Okay, this is my question.
Can you repeat your question? Sorry.
Okay. How to support improving English learning in your school environment or in campus environment?
Okay, thank you. Dr. Anis, would you like to answer immediately, or would you like me to compile the questions first and then you can answer after that?
Yes, thank you, Pak Bambang, for your questions. Pak Suraya, if you can repeat the questions, please.
Okay, so yeah, it's I will repeat the question for you. So Mr. Bambang Sukito is asking how to support the English environment at the university level in terms of the policy.
How to support the English environment?
Environment, yeah. Mm-hmm. The usage of the English, the usage of English at the university level in terms of policy.
Okay. Well, this is a consultant type questions, Pak Bambang.
I believe so.
Charging on this. Right. Okay. Do I have to wait for the next questions, or I just go on this?
You can choose either one. If you choose to answer immediately, you can do that. But if you want me to compile the 3 questionnaires, then I can do that as well.
Okay. Well, I don't know. This takes a lot of you know. But I mean, there are many studies of what constitute or what are the examples of best practices to support to support or just to improve the effectiveness of or the nuance of English environment. And if by English environment meaning that the school members or the university members use the language, practice the language, and then showing a good example, like a higher scores of English. I think that this is what this has been a timeless homework, not timeless, like this always a homework, because the learners change, the university changed, the curriculum also changes, and somehow that affects how we structures the classes or the curriculums or the syllabus or the school's credits also. So there are many ways that I could suggest that I could share about best practices, but again, there's no silver bullet solutions for this kind of questions. And as you also aware, policy is basically an experimenting of different strategies and see which one that has more results and less damage or less negative unintended consequences and makes out the positive intended consequences. So some best practices that we can share at the individual levels, it basically comes down to individual students and teachers themselves. In university, adult learners, they have more responsibility. We expect them to have greater responsibilities of their own learnings. Whenever my students ask, how do I improve my English? They just use the language. If you don't use the language, then there's no way that it will be, improved. Regardless all the methods, approach, textbooks, learning modes, hybrid, or even having native speakers, if we don't use the language with ourselves, like, with even with the same friends, doesn't have to be with the native, that also will not improve, or it just stopped there on the textbook, but not actually putting it in practice. In terms of the staff, the instructors, the faculty, the professors, the same. I think capacity building is always a way to go, because it's more manageable, it's measurable. What might be a challenge is actually making sure that the training is right on target, the training suits the personal's growth plan, because each teachers or each staff or professors have their own level of interest, or like plan on how they're going to use the language for. So having it sort of tailored with their own growth plan might actually speed up the process or the progress, because it's more personal to them. And each of us might be different. Some would just need focusing on able to read, more on the receptive skill compared to productive skill. Some is more on the academic language, some is more on transactional conversations. And I'm an advocate of eclectic approach. So use all types of approach, whatever works. Doesn't have to be what the government or what the new curriculum suggested, because, again, if we so this is a tool. If the government or if the top leader suggested a certain knife to cut or to use for cooking, but again, each chef has its own ingredients, its own recipe, and might need different knives and different ways of using the knife. So again, tailor it to individual needs of the teachers or the professors. That will speed up the progress, because it comes from their own interest, their own agenda, their own intent of using and advancing the language. Does that cover your questions, Pak Bambang? Again, these are just suggested best practices that I read somewhere, but not always, like the big solutions or answers to this homework. I think this has been a homework in all institutions of all languages, right? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bambang. So I think if I can just resume your answer, it is like it has to be like customized, and also like at the university level, the teachers, the lecturers, and also professors, as well as the students, they are all like autonomous learners. So they know what they want to do, and they need the language skill improved. So whatever the language is, including English. And yeah, it takes time, it takes process, and it deals, or it encounters a lot of translates, or even like a question from the chat box. This one is from Mr. Masilva Reynolds. He's asking, his question is, how do local language classes survive at international schools, particularly Olympus School, where international language is mandatory and overly exposed? Dr. Anis, would you like to elaborate the answer for this question?
Okay, thank you, Mas Silva. So are you asking how was the local language classes back then, or you were asking how to get them survive, or how to facilitate the survivalness of this?
Mr. Masilva, was it back then? Yeah, was it back then, or the current condition of classes at Olympus School? Okay, so I think it was like back then, whenever he's saying
there
like
is
all
no
in the school, it was back then probably. Yeah.
It was back
Mhm.
then because
Mhm.
he mentioned
Yeah.
the international schools. I was wondering if the questions were about local languages back then or like local languages from now onward. So back
Yeah.
then, yeah, back then, how did or did they survive or not? I don't know. So again, that depends on where the school was, in which province, because not all provinces have local language classes or instructions. My research was in Central Java, and in Central Java, the Javanese language has always been not elective, but muatan lokal, like local elective language classes. And I did talk with local language, with the Javanese language teachers there. Like, what do you think about this? I know it doesn't have any impact on your daily teachings, but what do you feel? What do you think? And especially, local languages compared to Indonesian languages, compared to foreign languages, and local languages are not much structured as much as English or Indonesian language in this school. There's not much elaborated, and resources also not a lot. Textbooks has always been the same one. So how do local language classes survive? How do they survive? Or if the questions did they survive, meaning that did they still, or were they still there? Yes, they were still there. They still offer the local language despite the internationalizations, because as a part of their international vision is that they still sort of nurturing local local language, local cultures, and they actually have a lot of local community outreach using the grants from the international education. So it's not just for going abroad, but they also have lots of local activities, including probably something that has to do with local language also. So how about now, whether they survive or not? I think right now, I'm just talking about Javanese language specifically because the research is on Central Java context. Javanese language has more than 10 million speakers and more. I think in Java, it would be like more than 20, 30 millions, because East Java itself is 30 million populations, right? And Central Java,
Yep.
East Java, there will be more than 60 million language speakers. So that is actually categorized as a major language, although it may not, although it is not national, it is not foreign language, but in terms of the language speakers, Japanese language has a long longevity, meaning that there's a lot of speakers that will continue preserve the language. And whether or not the schools or the national curriculum will suggest local language, that's another question also. Does that respond to your questions, Mr. Masilva?
Mr. Masilva, you may.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Masilva. Now, I'd like to go with the live questioners from Mr. Yunan because he's raising his hand. Please, Mr. Yunan.
Thank you, Ms. Soraya. Ms. Anis, may I elaborate the question of Mr. Masilva?
Yes,
also, in Indonesia, we have the saying that utamakan bahasa Indonesia, lestarikan bahasa daerah, dan kuasai bahasa asing. It means that all of us, including children at the schools, should learn minimum 3 different languages. My concern is in terms of interference in using these languages, and also the glacial leakage. Yeah, will it be in the future another problem? what do you think about this phenomenon?
Okay, so about using or studying three languages, the trilingual educations,
Yeah.
what do I think about this? Okay, thank you,
Thank
Pak
you.
Yunan Fatur, for the question, which is very interesting questions. This reminds me of India. They have trilingual educations. They mandated their the public schools to teach three languages, right? And that has been an issue also in terms of which local languages that they have to pick and choose. In the case of Indonesia, I did not see that much of sort of debates on that yet in terms of which language. So we have that jargon in terms of local language, national language, and foreign language. That is on the ideological space, right? What we want to, what we idealize in terms of language learnings. And for some kids, they actually speak more than three languages. For some, it may be just two languages. And it all goes back to the actual implementations at home and at schools. At schools, we have the curriculum, the national curriculums, the schools, muatan lokal from the schools, the elective schools, the elective language courses, whether it is local and foreign languages. We also have has a lot of things to do with schools resources and whether or not they have the teachers who teach the local language or the foreign languages. I think in East Java and Central Java, there's always local language teachers for Javanese, but in other provinces, that's actually big issues. Central Java, West Java, and East Java, yes, but in Jakarta, they don't have local languages because which language to pick? Because this is so diverse. And again, I always like to see the family language policy. Parents are actually, parents are not policymaker, but they are invisible language policymaker, and yet the most powerful language policy implementer, language policymakers. Parents spend money to pay language classes for their kids. Parents told their kids to speak this language or that language at home with their grandparents or something. If intercultural marriage, they will decide which language that their kids will speak with. So when it comes to the trilingual education, or speaking foreign, national, and local language, there is a need to have an advocacy to the community, to parents, in terms of what languages you want your kids to learn and to be able to speak with, for what purpose, and how much you're willing to invest or to spend money and resources to provide educations of these languages, or at least to get their kids exposed to more than two languages. So again, when it comes to local languages, it's always come back to the society and the community also, and local governments, if they're willing to invest the logistic for the local language textbooks or preservations or documentations of this, especially in the eastern part of Indonesia. There's so much languages that are sort of lost because of decreasing number of the speakers, and that there's no documented preservations of those languages. It doesn't answer or address your questions a lot, because half of it is sort of hypothetical, what could happen in the futures, right? Okay. Thank you, Pak Yunan.
Thank you very much, Ms. Anis.
Okay, Pak Yunan, does it answer your question? I hope.
yeah, but
Okay.
it leaves me another discussion.
Okay,
Whether
so
yeah.
We will continue our discussion later on, like out of this session. But for the last question, I think this one is from Prof. Slamet Setiawan. This one is from chat box, because we have a very limited time for this. He's asking like how urgent is bilingual education applied in Indonesia? Probably he's asking at the university level.
Okay.
Yeah.
How urgent is bilingual education applied in Indonesia's campuses? I think this ties back to Pak Yunan Fatur topic also about the trilingual. If the government suggested the trilingual education, then it is suggested. I don't know. I need to rephrase the questions also. How urgent is it? Then that depends on what languages that that are packaged within this bilingual education. If it is local and national, then we have been bilingual in local and national.
I think it's English and Indonesia probably.
English and Indonesia.
Mhm.
How urgent? Right now, not by default. Right now, with in big cities in Java and some big cities in Sumatra and in Bali, probably most young learners are already bilingual in Indonesian language and either English and other foreign languages. How urgent it is, it depends what their plan, how they're gonna use the language is. For, let's say, for international vocation students, then it is urgent because they are sort of projected to work after the school, maybe, and whether it is domestic or abroad, especially with the ASEAN, masyarakat ASEAN community, they already have, plotted, okay, this international vocations can go to Thailand to do this and that. So they already have that conversations. So in that case, it is not just urgent, but it is necessary. And it might be also personal plans of these kids because they, wanted to do this and that. How urgent is bilingual? This question is simple, but it does make me thinking a lot because it had some other layers that we need to break down. That we need to break down the questions into some other layers, not just urgent, but also how necessary, or is it important, or is it for everybody, or is it for which groups of learners or which groups of professionals. So I hope that opens up more discussions, and I'm willing to discuss this also via email if there is no time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Anis. I think it takes I think it opens up an opportunity to investigate or to conduct some more research on like how urgent bilingual education applied in Indonesian universities, I think. Okay.
And for who, right?
Yeah. Raya and Bu Anis, can I
Okay.
say something about
Yes,
about
please,
it?
Pak Slamet.
Yes, please, Pak Slamet.
Question. I would like to underline your presentation. I love, joining your presentation. I follow from the very beginning. And also I would like to underline Pak Yunan's question because, I try to raise this question simply because I'm very sad, like what you mentioned earlier, Bu Anis, that in the eastern part of Indonesia, that every year the local languages died. Recently, I presented in a seminar that 12 local languages in Maluku and also in Papua, died out. Like what you mentioned, because of, decreasing native speakers, and also there is no document preservations on the language. My strong message, actually, because I'm linguist as well, I would like to be your partner, maybe, Bu Anis, later to work together to do some joint research and publication. My message actually is, like Pak Yunan said, let's preserve and also maintain our local languages. At the same time, we have to, master the international languages, because international languages, are necessary for us and also younger generation. But at the same time, we have to maintain our local wisdom. I will be very sad, for example, in Australian Aboriginal languages, thousands of languages died out. And also United States of America, Indian languages also died out. In Africa also have the same thing. So I would like to underline that, please, then, as linguists and also educators, we have to be balanced in treating languages, both national, regional, and also international. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for Anis. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Slamet.
Thank you
for
so
the
much, Pak
question.
Slamet.
And yeah. And I'm happy to do research with you remotely, with me in here.
I'm sure that it's going to be a wonderful collaboration between you and also Professor Slamet.
Looking forward. Thank you.
Like this Google education, only bilingual education, how going to be implemented, or want to borrow your term. So I think this discussion is quite interesting, and by having like the discussion from the question and answering session. So in terms of appropriation of this English usage at the university level, Rani suggested like it's self-customized at the university level, because of the individual at the university levels, they're all autonomous learners. Regarding the local language preservation, like how the local languages survive whenever they want, whenever the school already required international language as also as a mandatory. So the number of speakers, they have a responsibility to preserve the local languages. And in terms of trilingual education, family institution, the invisible policymakers, if I may borrow the terms from Dr. Anis again, they're all significant in terms of educating the children, of having this trilingual education. And regarding the urgency of having a bilingual education at the university level in Indonesia, it depends on the intention, the necessity, and also the importance, whether it is necessary for everyone or not. And also it's going to depend on the Indonesian government, whenever they want Bahasa Indonesia to become the language of Asian community. So that will be the summary for the discussion. And thank you so much, Dr. Anis Sundusia, for sharing with us this interesting topic. I'm sure that there's still a lot of questions, and we can continue like outside this forum, and we can discuss it later. And on behalf of the third Iccsal organizing committee, we would like to present you the certificate. And again, thank you for joining us today, and you have a wonderful evening there.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm learning a lot from our discussions and the questions.
Me too, me too. The committee, can you show the certificate to Dr. Anis Sundusia? The operator, please. Okay. So yeah, while we are waiting for the operator, I'd like to move on to, okay. So we will send the certificate to your email. So thank you so much, Dr. Anis Sundusia. And I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to Dr. Anis Sundusia for sharing with us today her wonderful findings with us. And it has a lot of insights, and also opens up an opportunity to conduct some more research regarding this. And thank you so much. You have a wonderful evening.
For the future conversations with the colleagues at UNESA.
Okay.
Oh, okay, this is a certificate. It's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
You do the same. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Goodbye. Okay. Thank you. Now, moving along to our second session, shortly we will have Professor Dr. Kim So-il from Bukkyong National University, South Korea. Professor Kim, are you here with us today? Are you already here? Professor Kim? Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice to see you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Professor Kim. So, Professor Dr. Kim got his PhD from Hankook University of Foreign Studies in International Relations. His main areas of expertise include Indonesian studies, Korean studies, as well as political and international relations. He has diverse experiences in teaching and leadership at governmental institutions. In fact, he was the former honorary consul of Indonesia in Busan, Korea, within the period of 1993 to 2007. So, dearest participants, now let's have Professor Dr. Kim So-il's presentation on the importance of university second foreign language education in the global era. The operator, please.
안녕하세요. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to be part of this very prestigious seminar. I want to present a paper seeing the importance of the second foreign language in the era of globalization. Firstly, I want to introduce key words. They are definition of global elite, second foreign language, global order, triple major university curriculum, and criteria for selecting second foreign language, and then the unity between language and culture, and so on. Firstly, I want to describe about the theme of this paper. The purpose of this lecture is at providing chances to contemplate in finding the right types of knowledge, wisdom, and virtues individuals need to acquire to become global professionals. As the hub of education, universities, I mean higher educational institutions, need to continuously evolve to develop education methodologies and curriculums reflecting the ever-changing environment surrounding the post-industrial revolution and the era of globalization. In this context, the presenter, me, would like to introduce foreign language-based triple major curriculum through the explanation of advantage in living the era of globalization. Next, I wanted to try to introduce the definition of global elite. Global elite are expected to be competent in communicating at least one foreign language besides English, with the sense of tolerance and comprehensive understanding in different cultures, all of which are necessary in maintaining the equilibrium in living today's society. Now, I want to introduce one more definition. That is definition of a second language. As major English-speaking nations, namely the Commonwealth countries, are controlling the global order, English naturally has been regarded as the dominant official and working language, and automatically the rest of other foreign languages are being recognized as second foreign languages. Now I want to introduce the standard in selecting the second foreign languages. Priority should be given to the languages of partner countries with the most frequent trade and cooperation in the areas of commerce, diplomacy, economy, culture, education, and military. In case of Korea, the languages of neighboring China and Japan traditionally has been chosen as the most preferred and frequently learned foreign languages, which, while official working languages of UN, such as French, Spanish, Russian, Arabic, constitute the next most preferred options, being followed by German, Indonesian, Vietnamese, Thai, etc. Now, let's look at the background behind the increasing importance of second foreign language. First, economic development of non-English speaking countries has been spectacular since 1960s, whereas hardly 20% of the world's population, which accounts for only 1.5 to 2.7 billion out of 8 billion, communicate in English. Another factor facilitating the rise of second foreign language is the globalization of commerce, tourism, and overseas study. Prior to the active globalization in the 1980s, the usage of second foreign language was confined to the fields of diplomacy and commerce. However, the needs of foreign language has grown significantly in parallel with the rapid expansion of global trade, investment, tourism, overseas study, cultural exchanges, etc. For instance, the language of Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, Arab, and Spain started emerging as popular languages to learn for the countries being the most sought after global partners of the Republic of Korea. The last factor related to the rise of second foreign language is the development of science, aviation, communication, media, etc. The development of technology has supported a wide range of means to learn foreign languages more effectively and efficiently through the media and information technology such as cinema, music, podcasts, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, now let me introduce the strategy for success in mastering foreign languages as a university student. First, foreign language-based triple major curriculum. This is the creation of my chef. This curriculum is highly and strongly recommended by me. With the rise of overseas exchanges in the era of globalization, the significance of foreign language as the means of communication and cooperation cannot be overstressed. In the same context, the aforementioned foreign language-based triple major curriculum can effectively enhance the competitiveness edge of university students when they come to compete in the global workplaces after their graduation from universities. Secondly, explaining unnecessity to acquire more than one foreign language. Given the expectation in high proficiency of foreign languages at professional level, students need to be selective in concentrate to concentrate on no more than one foreign language, mainly because massive amount of time and efforts are indispensable to reach the high proficiency of the language. Within the limited time frame of a 4-year duration in college, it is impractical and unfeasible for university students to study multiple languages due to the time-consuming nature of mastering foreign language. According to a result of a survey conducted by an Italian scholar, it may require at least the equivalent duration of 5,000 study hours to acquire competitive knowledge and skills in any field of science, including language, whereas 10,000 hours of study is required to be outstanding at the international level of workplace. It means students with the triple major curriculum with concentration in foreign language need to study 4 to 5 years to ensure competitive edge at the highest national level, assuming 9 hours are invested daily. In other words, 3 hours daily on each major. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not least important strategy is synergy effect of curriculum combining both foreign languages and non-linguistic sciences. Non-native speakers who wish to be successful in the global era should have outstanding knowledge in at least 2 foreign languages, namely English and other second foreign languages, together with a specialty of expertise in non-linguistic science. As languages only function as the instrument of expression and description of knowledge or skills. So it is indispensable to major and to be specialized at one social science or natural science. Individuals with no specific knowledge in one area of social or natural science have to have no substances to be spoken or delivered using the languages they study. As the theme of this seminar delves on the interrelations between language and culture, I also want to give my thought on it briefly. In my opinion, the foreign language studies is constituted as the integral part of cultural studies, as a language is a component of culture. Foreign language learning is roughly constituted in 2 stages. The first stage is about learning the linguistic aspect of language, whereas the second stage is attempting to explain or depict some knowledge they studied through non-linguistic, social, or natural science. As a result, we can conclude that there are indispensable relations amongst the 4 themes to be presented at this seminar, namely language, art, culture, and social science. They are inseparably interrelated. Now, ladies and gentlemen, time to make a conclusion. Living the global society with ceaseless changes, acquiring the right types of knowledge and skills within the limited time frame is a balancing act for individuals aiming to be global professionals. As the education agents to prepare students to be global professionals, university may endorse to leverage foreign language-based triple major curriculum. English, one second foreign language, and one non-linguistic science. For the student facing for the post-industrial revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I present today. I thank you so much for your attention. 감사합니다.
Okay. Wi-Fi connection is not stable. So thank you so much, Professor Kim, for the wonderful presentation. Before we move on to the Q&A, summarize what he has highlighted. So Professor Kim's students language, foreign language, foreign significant impacts, and how studying the foreign language can be embedded in major sciences such as engineering and humanities. I believe that his presentations raises some curiosity. So without further ado, I'd like to open up the first term of our Q&A session. So please, participants, if you would like to ask your questions live, then you may click the raise hand button and just state your questions, or you can also type in the chat box and using the same format. Now we have one question from the chat, Professor Kim. So let me read it for you. How do you view Bahasa Indonesia within Asian region and Swahili in African continent could potentially become the global language, or to be specific, a second foreign language at the global level? Professor Kim?
I learned Indonesian language many decades ago, many decades ago. And then I'm very proud, and then I also made most of it for my life. So it has been very helpful. So what I want to emphasize today, what I want to convey to the participant and student is my experience, which favored greatly the usage of Indonesian language. My point is that language, whatever it may be, Indonesian or Japanese or Korean, is an instrument for expressing or explaining or depicting the knowledge the speaker has. So just the instrument, that's what I want to emphasize. It means students need to be taught or need to be equipped with substances to be spoken by the language they to be spoken, the foreign language that they learn. So when they only speak, when they only learn foreign language, it is not so worthwhile. So it's not worthwhile, and it becomes empty when the speaker don't have the knowledge or logic or the ideas or information. So when the language is combined with the non-language sciences, it becomes more elegant, more worthwhile, more useful. So according to my experience, it's a must. Language itself cannot be worthwhile when it is combined with social or natural science. It becomes great. Really, it works as an very useful, necessary means. Okay, and then if you have another questions, please.
Okay, thank you. So the question is much more like is Indonesia or even Swahili can be used as an instrument whenever you talk about the language of a country that has breakthrough in science or even like has innovation in science, for example, Japanese, Korea, or even like Germany. Is it possible like Indonesia become one of them? That's the question.
That my desire also. My is like that. According to my experience, actually, frankly speaking, I started my career with the knowledge, my knowledge of Indonesian language. Based on the Indonesian languages, I expanded into other social science areas. I mean, for me, politics of Indonesia, and then after that, politics, Southeast Asia. So I started my career from my Indonesian language knowledge, but from there, I developed my areas related to my Indonesian knowledge. I want to so strongly recommend, but I want to emphasize we have to teach students how to strengthen the effectiveness or the usage of second foreign language like Indonesian. So we also have to teach the strengths and the limit, the characteristics, and then as I repeatedly say, the way to strengthen or elevate its effectiveness is by way of combining other non-language sciences. That's the way how to make it more useful, and pragmatic, and more productive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Kim. So you strongly recommend that Indonesia become the language of Asian communities. So you also think that it's possible whenever Bahasa Indonesia become the second foreign language that must be taught or that must be learned by students at the university level. Okay, so participants, we still have the Q&A sessions. If you want to ask or raise your questions live, you can just click the button raise hand and we will unmute your Zoom and you may state your questions. It's really interesting whenever you talk that we have these three what we call as three curriculum. Whenever you say like we have the English, we have the other major science, and also we have the what we call as the second foreign language, and they need to embed it, all those three at the curriculum level, and they need to teach the university needs to teach the students.
Yeah.
Okay.
English is a must for every needless to say, just must for every person in modern time. So with only English, we cannot be differentiated from others in terms of our competence, or in terms of our intellectual preeminence or excellence. So second language functions, as a differentiator. It makes us distinctive, different from others. So the core of my message is the second language. Jadi bahasa Indonesia itu membuat saya sangat itu lebih unggul daripada orang Korea biasa. Jadi kalau soal ini Indonesia, terkait Indonesia, saya bisa lebih unggul daripada akademisi itu orang Korea lain.
So having the second foreign language will be
di depan saya akademisi orang lain tidak mau berani bicara mengenai Indonesia. Saya dapat itu semua sumber itu data atau itu data informasi apa saja langsung dari saya pembacaan buku penerbit buku Indonesia dan langsung bisa wawancara primary data banyak bisa ciptakan primary data.
Thank you, Pak Kim. So we have one more questioners from the live Zoom. We have Mr. Himawan. Please, Mr. Himawan, you may raise your question.
Right. Thank you very much, Bu Soroya, and also Prof. Kim. Allow me to ask you a question related to the ideas in your presentations related to the ideas of having what do you call that, foreign language censored triple fusion major. So it was very interesting, and then your ideas that university students should master a foreign language. For example, students majoring in engineering, or students majoring in a biological study, or different study program, they should add one more knowledge in foreign language, which is going to make them different, which is going to make them ready to compete in global world. So the thing is here, well, actually I'm also now involved in the Universitas Negeri Surabaya Language Center. And what we found so far, our students here in our university, if we can try to talk about the percentage of how many students who can actually or who master foreign language, the percentage is going to be very low. So that is also one of our concerns related to our students here in Universitas Negeri Surabaya. So what I'm trying to ask you here, whether you have the examples of a university who has already been able to apply your idea, combining 3 different departments to, for example, one department from engineering and then the other department from foreign language, and then, well, we have already tried that here by giving students or adding the English course into their study, but only one semester. It's not going to work. So far, it doesn't work that well. So what do you think, Professor Kim? What is the actual, ideal ways of we want to make sure that our students will be ready for the competition internationally. So what do you have any ideas on making students aware that I need to be able to speak English, I need to be able to learn how to speak Japanese, because my engineering major leads me to German, to Japan, or maybe to Korea, those kinds of things. So what do you think, Professor?
Now I work as a visiting professor at the Department of International Relations at UI, Universitas Indonesia. I'm visiting professor there. Now I give my lectures in Indonesian language. It makes me to be, I think it's determinant, what the deciding factor which support me to be a visiting professor. Very honorable job to me. Yeah, it implies a lot to you already, very clearly. Support the effectively supporting language. It's proven already by me. So, as Mr. Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't renamed the title. Just call me him.
Yeah, Doctor. You speak English very well, excellently. But if you speak Korean very well, you must be very popular in Korea. A lot of invitations to seminars. Many universities are interested in inviting Dr. As a faculty there. I'm very busy here, so you invited me. But actually, it's I prefer to be asked to make presentation in Indonesian languages.
Oh, really?
And that makes me distinctive, different from other. Just apply the triple majors into your curriculum, So have to let all your students to already be qualified to graduate when they completed at least 3 majors: English, and then second language. According to my experience, the second language, Indonesian language, contributed a lot to building of my career as the ambassador of Korea, and then also president of what Panasya advisor to President of Korea regarding the Indonesian and then Southeast Asian politics, including Indonesia. So it cannot be overstressed, the effectiveness and the usefulness and the kindness of the second foreign language, and the very democratic. It's a warm nature. It makes me, like me, from very small family, make me stand on my own. It's very democratic, very kind. Foreign language, second foreign language. So I want you to give awakening about effectiveness of foreign language, but it should be combined with one non-language science. Me, I am the I have been the vice also president of the Association of Political Science in Korea. So my major field of science is political science. So, my competitiveness edge as a scholar, but could be strengthened. That could be helped greatly by Indonesian.
So actually you are one of the examples, a good example. So your major, your main major is political science, and then you also master English, and then your second language, foreign language is Bahasa Indonesia.
My English is very bad because as I told you, I have to be number one in Indonesian language. I was very ambitious. So my allocation of time for study have always been prioritized on Indonesian language. So I haven't had any educational background at all in English-speaking nations. So my English is just on my own. But even though my English is a little bit less competitive compared to that of other academicians, but my Indonesian language in Korean academic circle, it already offsetting my weakness.
That's the point, I think, Professor. Right.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you
Professor
so
Kim.
much, Mr. Hibawan, and also Professor Kim. We have one last question. This one comes from Mr. Farhan. He's asking, how do you see Korean language growing up now in modern era as the growing of K-drama and also K-pop culture? Is that Korean language, will Korean language continue growing up in the future?
Yeah, it is very clear that it will be more loved based on some reason. I think the reason is that it's related to the expansion or increase in commerce, trade, and investment between Indonesia and Korea. So if we observe the process of development or process of the level of love for certain language, second language at a certain country, it is in proportion with the increase in the exchanges and cooperation. So, I mean, as the increase in exchanges and cooperation between Indonesia and Korea is very satisfactorily increasing very stably. So I'm very sure that here the love of Indonesians for Korean language can be also sustain. Vice versa, in Korea, I am the one of the example. Yeah? I love Indonesia, so I majored in Indonesia. My first degree is Indonesian culture and language in Korean at a Korean university. So So here here I see with the trend here. The trend Indonesians love Korean culture, Korean drama, and food, and the fashion, and everything. So I am as a Korean very witness that very in my very humble mind. Then it also stimulates me to be more active. Instead, I promote Indonesian culture and languages in Korea more, actively.
Okay, thank you so much. If I may resume from our discussion with Professor Kim. So Professor Kim is strongly recommends Bahasa Indonesia as the language of Asian community because it's going to be the instrument of collaboration, and also there will be more exchanges in terms of cultures and also from innovation or from engineering perspective. And there is the need for universities to implement the 3 different disciplines that are going to be embedded in the curriculum. The first one is English as the mandatory, and the second one is the second foreign language, and the third one is major sciences, for example, engineering or communication or humanities. And by having these 3 different disciplines and studying them not in terms of linguistics perspective, the university can achieve the global level, or even like can achieve the competence or the quality of the graduates at the global level, and it can increase the competitiveness of its graduates. And in terms of the growing up interest of learning Korean culture and also Korean language, Professor Kim believes that it's going to be vice versa. Not only there is a growing interest of studying Korean languages and culture, but for Korean as well, Indonesia is always attractive. Therefore, he mentions that it is strongly recommended for universities to have taught their students a second foreign language, especially from countries with innovations or even like breakthrough in science and engineering. And with that note, I'd like to resume the first plenary session. And again, thank you so much for Professor Kim for your kindness to share with us the importance of second foreign language. And on behalf of the organizing committee, I'd like to present the certificate given by the organizing committee. The operator, please.
My honor. Saya harap lain kali saya merasa lebih aman lain kali saya diberi kesempatan ya untuk memberi ceramah nanti offline nanti di UNESCO.
Tentu Bapak, ya tentu. Whenever it is a national seminar, there will be opportunities for lecturers from Faculty of Languages and Arts to extend the invitation to you to have shared with the students in national seminars as well. Thank you so much. So with that note, ya, again, thank you. Terima kasih Bapak Kim telah bergabung dengan kami. So that would be all for the first plenary. I'm Suraya. I'd like to end this session with Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. Over to you, Miss Cecilia Putri. Miss Cecilia. Okay, so based on the timetable, we will have break for 15 minutes and please each presenter, you are going to be assigned by the operator to have your presentation in each room that has been determined by the organizing committee. So thank you so much. I'll see you in the breakout rooms. Thank you.
Hello, Ms. Suraya.
Yes, Ms. Cecilia.
Yeah, thank you so much for moderating the plenary session, and thank you so much everyone for attending the first plenary session. Right now, we will have a break for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we are going to go back into the main room, and then we can be directed into the breakout rooms right away. Thank you so much, everyone. You may have a break for 10 minutes, and then we'll see you again in this main room and towards the breakout rooms afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you.
A campus from the best city in Indonesia, a city with a long history of struggle and heroism. Welcome to Universitas Negeri Surabaya, a university with superior accreditation. Founded in 1964 as a teaching institute for education under the name Iccsal Surabaya, to be an educational institution that carries the mandate as university that produces educators. Currently, UNESA, established as a center for education development, preservation of traditional arts, sports science, and inclusive services for people with disabilities. Growing to be a leading university, UNESA now manages 7 faculties consisting of 64 undergraduate study programs, 10 vocational programs, and 31 postgraduate study programs. The main campus is located in Lidawetan, Surabaya with 7 main buildings. They are Rectorate Building, Board of Learning Development and Quality Assurance Building, and 3 faculty buildings including Faculty of Science Education, Faculty of Language and Art, Faculty of Sports Science, as well as postgraduate programs. And here is the oldest campus, Ketintang area. There are 4 faculty buildings and 1 vocational program building that includes Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Economics and Business, Faculty of Social Sciences and Law, and vocational programs. Managing the fields of study, education-based and non-educational study programs, UNESA is committed to improving the quality of education, fostering scientific traditions in research, promoting the spirit of community service, collaborating with stakeholders, and performing excellent, transparent, and accountable services. Reaching independent autonomic higher studies, welcoming the next step of UNESA as a legal entity higher education institution.
Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Kami dengan bangganya mengajak Anda untuk lebih dekat dan mengenal tentang UNESA. Kami terus berkomitmen tidak hanya menyelenggarakan pendidikan terbaik bagi tenaga pendidik profesional masa depan, juga sangat berfokus untuk menciptakan lulusan yang berkarakter, tangguh, kreatif, inovatif, dan mampu berkolaborasi pada siapapun, berbudaya yang humanis dengan spesifikasi yang unggul dalam hal seni, olahraga, dan pendidikan disabilitas yang komprehensif.
Education is not only the key of our existence, but also the spirit of struggle of UNESA. Becoming one of the campuses that organize teacher professional education programs that produce professional educators, UNESA is committed to organizing various empowerment programs as a stimulus to develop faculty members and students, research development, and innovative product as the solution to problems in the society. UNESA, House of the Champions. A supportive ecosystem in producing competitive and well-qualified human resources with global perspective to compete on both national and international levels. In order to create a healthy learning ecosystem, UNESA continue to provide the best service with various quality facilities, national or international scale, in the field of education, science, and sports. UNESA continuously commit to provide an outstanding service and friendly for people with disabilities. Supported with adequate facilities and infrastructure, a competitive environment, and a continuously moving to create a conservation campus. Futsal International Sports Arena, Container Students Dormitory, Sports Center, Language Center, Geraha UNESA, Student Activity Center, Jogging Track, Equestrian Field, International Basketball Arena, Student Activity Units, Art Development, character and personality building. Sports. Outdoor activities.
UNESA, 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 UNESA,
UNESA.
UNESA, satu langkah di depan.
Welcome back to the main room, everyone. After this, we are going to move on to the parallel session presentation. As you can see from the breakout rooms down there, As you can see from the breakout rooms down there, we already have 5 breakout rooms that you can enter. For the presenters, you may join the breakout rooms right away, and then you will be welcomed by a moderator in the room. After the breakout room session, we will have another break, and then we are going to join the second session for the plenary session. Thank you so much, and have a good conference, everyone.
Yes. Yeah, hello.
You are in the main room, Kusufi.
Uh-huh. And then I go back to the breakout room now?
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Can I start when I go back to the main room? To the breakout room?
Yes, you can start right away, briefly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Please join the breakout rooms for all the moderators and also the presenters. For the guests, you may also pick any breakout rooms that you desire to attend and also to observe the presenters there. Thank you.